Every year, Hallmark fills us with traditional small-town, hot cocoa-fueled romance stories. This year, they produced 43 new Christmas films, and I watched them all. That comes out to 86 hours with commercials of my life was spent watching these films. Today, we are going to rank all 2022 Hallmark films from the worst to the best. And spoiler alert, if you haven't watched these films, they don't always kiss at the end. Number 43, A Royal Corgi Christmas. When Prince Edmund brings an untrained Corgi, he hopes to win his mother, the Queen's love, anticipating being named successor to the throne. When the dog ruins a Kessel event, Edmund reluctantly hires Cecily, a dog trainer who insists that Edmund be part of the training. The two slowly fall in love as they work together to train a rambunctious dog before an annual festival ball. I really enjoyed the Royal movies, but this one was tough to get through. Normally Hallmark puts out one Royal movie per year for Christmas. This year we get two, and is one too many. A Royal Corgi Christmas is my least favorite film for this year, and the worst Royal film they've ever put out. There's not much to like about this movie. The production, the sets, the costumes, they all feel cheap. The only bright spot was Hunter King, who I enjoyed and hope that Hallmark gives her better films. Sometimes quality is better than quantity. Number 42, A Fabled Holiday. As children, Talia and her friend Anderson read a fairy tale storybook called Wonderbrook Christmas Story, gifted to Talia by her father just before his death. Years later, circumstances they can't control bring them and a few other wayward guests to the Gingerbread Inn, located in the quaint and cozy town of Wonderbrook, to restore their Christmas spirit. A Fabled Holiday attempts to be a movie full of Christmas magic, but like most of the magical world films, the Hallmark tropes and the love story brings it back to reality. It never fully commits either way, and I came away confused. How was this world created? Why is there nobody in this town? How are people chosen to visit? None of these questions are addressed. Brooke D'Orsi and Ryan Pavey clearly tried to make this movie work, but I came away confused as Brooke character Talia was as well. Number 41, Undercover Holiday. Music pop star Jalen is assigned an overzealous security guard named Matt to protect her from a possible stalker. She returns home to celebrate Christmas and pretends Matt is her boyfriend so as not to worry her traditional Hispanic family. We get a number of characters this year who are famous musical stars, and I hate all of them. There's nothing interesting about the struggle that these supposedly famous musicians go through. Undercover Holiday's story reminds me of the 1992 Whitney Houston-Kevin Costner film The Bodyguard. Neither film is very good, but at least the threat to Whitney Houston's character gives tension, bringing the couple together. I was never concerned that Jalen was in any real danger, and the movie never makes you worry either. Noemi Gonzalez and Stephen Hazar are good in this film, but the most interesting part of the movie is the presentation of Mexican-American holiday traditions. Number 40, A Maple Valley Christmas. Erica's family ranch is looking to expand and purchase the connecting property to expand their syrup business and maybe go retail. Things change when Aaron's family property investment company also wants to acquire the land. His arrival makes Erica question what she really wants. A Maple Valley Christmas is as boring as the title makes it sound. There's nothing exciting or interesting in a company buying a property that for some reason needs to happen before Christmas. Throw in selling maple syrup and we easily make this the most uninteresting film of 2022. I would like to award Andrew Walker for playing another property developer who disagrees with how his father conducts his business. Peyton List, no, not the Cobra Kai Peyton. Miss Peyton plays Erica, and she seems to overreact to everything that happens. She's impulsive, but it does give us the shocking first kiss 25 minutes into the film. Number 39, Christmas Bedtime Stories. Danielle struggles with the loss of her husband, who went missing in action during his deployment 3 years ago. Left to raise her daughter on her own, she has a difficult time in her new relationship. The only thing that helps her cope is telling her daughter bedtime stories about her father. She starts to receive signs that he may still be alive, keeping her from moving on. The entire film is uncomfortable to watch, especially her relationship with Pierce. Understandably, she had a hard time moving on. As the story played out, I saw it coming, but I didn't think they would actually bring back her dead husband. Yes, spoiler alert, by the end, her presumed dead husband just shows up. It wasn't a dream. He wasn't a ghost. The man escaped from captivity, looking fitter than most people, and showed up in time to take his daughter to the father-daughter dance. It's a crazy, unbelievable story that I found insulting to soldiers who actually have been captured. This man deserved a homecoming. He sacrificed himself to defend our freedom, and having a proper homecoming would have made this film great. Number 38. My grown-up Christmas list. Taylor comes home for Christmas and meets Luke, a military captain who spends most of the year stationed overseas. They quickly fall in love, and over the next 4 years find the long-distance relationship challenging as they spend more time apart than together. Before their marriage, Luke volunteers for a mission that forces Taylor to take matters into her own hands. My Christmas list is unique. It doesn't follow the traditional Hallmark formula. The couple falls in love in under 30 minutes, giving us a big kiss. Most of the film shows the challenges military couples experience with one member stationed overseas. It's an important story, but the Hallmark take doesn't feel real. When she traveled to where Luke was stationed, I fully expected the wedding to happen there. It didn't, so that was confusing as to why that happened. And hopefully, you can tolerate Amy Grant because her song of the same name is played 3 times in this movie. My grown-up Christmas list is a unique story, and while I applaud the effort, it was a disappointing Christmas film. Number 37. Inventing the Christmas Prince. When Shelby is told she will need to work over Christmas, she threatens to quit her job when her daughter becomes convinced that her boss, Evan, is the Christmas Prince from a story Shelby made up a few years ago. Evan agrees to pretend to be the prince if it will prevent Shelby from quitting her job. Shelby is our first rocket scientist Hallmark heroine. While I am all for exploring more advanced careers for the women characters, they have to make it look legit. Shelby works in a cubicle in the bland, boring office. She's told that she needs to work longer hours on her project, which she would rather quit, and then spends the rest of the film completing the Christmas Prince checklist with Evan instead of working. Overall, the Christmas Prince fell flat for me. We've all made up stories for our kids, but how many parents would go as far as Shelby does to not disappoint her daughter? Most likely, we wouldn't have blackmailed our boss. I enjoyed the chemistry between Tamara Mowry Housley and Ronnie Rowe, and Isabel Birch is adorable as Grace, even if she seems a little old to believe in a Christmas Prince. Shelby makes up the legend of the Christmas Prince as a substitute for Grace's dead father, and I just don't find it healthy to reinforce that on a child. Number 36. Time for him to come home for Christmas. After a year of grief over the death of her friend Andrew, Elizabeth receives a voicemail from a man named Carter asking a woman named Madeline for a second chance and to meet at their special place. Determined to locate the man, Elizabeth and her friend Josh attempt to locate the caller in the hopes of the man connecting with his love. I was all in for the first half of this film, even though the idea that somebody would put that much effort into finding the unknown caller was a bit absurd. When Josh and Elizabeth find Madeline, we learn that she also received a voicemail from Carter, thinking he was leaving a message for Elizabeth. Turns out that Carter was the man who lost control of his car and tragically killed their friend Andrew. Carter mixed up Madeline and Elizabeth's phone number. Madeline knew how to get a hold of Carter and didn't. So what was the point? Tyler Hynes and Holland Roden are great together and attempt to make this story work, but I think it's time to end these movies of people coming home for Christmas. Number 35. When I Think of Christmas. Helping her mom move to her new condo, Sarah returns to her hometown and runs into her ex-boyfriend Josh, who's managing the town Christmas concert. They slowly reconnect when she offers to perform and help plan the event when Sarah discovers her family musical roots. I'll be honest, I had to rewatch this movie because I completely forgot about it. I think that is what most people would say, is there's nothing memorable about this one. I'm tired of the storylines of planning the small town event for Christmas. The events are often terrible and I don't have any investment in them. Shanae Grimes Beach returns to Hallmark Christmas since her last film, 2015's Christmas Incorporated, and does a fine job as Sarah. Neil Mater, who's a regular in these films, is fine as well, and they have good chemistry with Shanae, but there's nothing in this film that I really enjoyed. I didn't hate it, but I also don't remember it. Number 34. A Magical Christmas Village. Summer, played by Alison Sweeney, moves her eclectic mother, Vivian, played by Marlo Thomas, into her home with her daughter Chloe after the abrupt sale of her mother's home. Vivian sets up the family miniature Christmas village that begins to influence real-life events. I love all the actors in this film, but I hated all their characters. The romance between Allison and Luke is non-existent, and we get a weird storyline where Luke's character Ryan gets to know Vivian but is unaware that she's the mother to Sweeney's character Summer. The movie strongly implies that the family's Christmas village set has the magical powers that brings the couple together. But don't get too excited. The village is neither magical nor featured after the first hour of the film. This is another example, similar to the movie A Fabled Christmas, in that reality takes priority over Christmas magic. The movie should have featured Summer and Ryan magically trapped in the small Christmas village display. Chloe is unaware of this and plays with the village, forcing Summer and Luke to go play out the scenarios, bringing the couple together in the end. Now that is a more interesting story. Number 33. A Christmas Cookie Catastrophe. Following her grandmother's death, Annie is promoted to CEO of Cooper's Cookies. Not well liked by the board of directors, Annie is suspicious of everybody when Grandma's secret recipe is stolen, preventing the company from producing any more cookies. She hires the local baker Sam to recreate the recipe, and they eventually fall in love. You have to suspend reality while watching this movie. The recipe was a card displayed under glass. This is the recipe that the factory uses to make the cookies. The thief also wipes the recipe from the computers, but in reality, the company would have backups and of course, the workers would remember how to make it. Forgetting that stealing the cookie recipe from the company to be lost forever is improbable, the movie was not one of my favorites. It's a shame because I really love Rachel Boston and Victor Webster. The mystery of who and why the recipe was stolen was not that interesting and bent reality even more. Number 32. All Saints Christmas. R&B singer Lizette is photographed by the paparazzi with her ex-boyfriend in an engagement misunderstanding. She decides to play along with the lie and play the fake engagement trope with her family when she travels home to New Orleans for Christmas. All Saints Christmas features another professional singer that really doesn't seem to be that popular as she walks around unnoticed. The only time she gets noticed was when she brings attention to herself and sings for a crowd of people. But for the most part, once she returns home, nobody seems to care. The relationship is not all that great, and I really didn't feel any chemistry between the two leads. What I did really like was the family club and the storyline of her dad retiring and playing the last performance at his club in New Orleans. Number 31. My Southern Family Christmas. Campbell, a journalist, is contacted by her biological dad's wife, hoping she can reconnect the father with his daughter. Campbell agrees to meet with him, only if she can confess who she is when and if she is ready. At the same time, she agrees to write a story for the paper about her biological father being chosen as the town's Père Noel. The mighty Bruce Campbell plays possibly the first absentee father in a Hallmark movie. We don't get the reason he was absent from Campbell's life, but it is hinted at past substance issues. I was very intrigued by the new direction. However, the rest of the story was just not as interesting. I found it hard that her dad didn't get a sense of who she was. It's clear he regrets his life decisions and stayed away, but it is hard to believe that he didn't research what she looks like. Throughout the film, they spend time together and I was expecting him to know it was her, but that didn't happen. When she does confess to him, it's awkward and unsatisfying. Cram in a quick romance, and I found My Southern Family Christmas to be a little lackluster. Number 30. We Need a Little Christmas. A year after losing her husband, Julie is acclimating to life as a single mother to her young son. They both develop a new friendship with Irene, their older neighbor next door, who is struggling with the fear she may be alone at Christmas. Irene, played by Lynn Winfield, is wonderful in this role and connects everyone together, while Erica Durance does a great job of portraying the struggle of a widowed single mother. What I didn't care for was her struggle to run her business and her budding relationship with the new client. This leads to another crammed, unneeded romance. The only positive is that this leads to the rare occasion where a Hallmark film doesn't force a new relationship on a widow. We Need a Little Christmas is not a bad movie. It has its nice moments, but I really don't want to watch it again. Number 29. Christmas and Toyland. A data analyst is sent to meet with a general manager to find out why his toy store is succeeding in an attempt to save hundreds of jobs and prevent box stores from closing. I wasn't as invested in the romance as much as the story of saving the toy store. When Charlie told Grant in the beginning that his store may close, the chemistry between them was the best scene in the film. Vanessa Lenges and Jesse Hutch worked well together, but I really enjoyed child star Emily Watt as Emma. The movie takes place in a toy store. It made me miss visiting toy retail stores around the holidays. I wasn't convinced that Grant was this amazing toy store manager. I also didn't care for his gruff exterior in the beginning. Somebody that does their job well should be excited to share why they are successful. My biggest complaint is that at the end, spoiler alert, everyone loses their job. They don't save any of the stores, and Charlie even quits hers. We did get a decent romance story, but in the end, I found the conclusion of the story a bit depressing. Number 28. Holiday Heritage. In another movie featuring a woman returning to her hometown, Ella attempts to reconnect with her fractured family. She runs into her ex-boyfriend, who is now the mayor of the small Pennsylvania town, and encourages her family to celebrate Christmas and Kwanzaa to repair the family rift. I'm all for learning about other holidays, and I was intrigued that Hallmark was going to have a Kwanzaa movie. Of course, like the Hallmark Hanukkah movies, this has a lot of Christmas sprinkled in. However, if I were to describe this movie, I would call it bakery drama. The film primarily focuses on issues with the bakery, getting the orders out on time, not expanding the menu, and not changing the logo. When the film does celebrate Kwanzaa, it is focused on numerous candle lighting ceremonies sandwiched between family arguments. I love Holly Robinson Peete, but she's a side character in this film for a younger couple. And it's a shame because last year's Our Christmas Journey was just so wonderful. Number 27. A Jolly Good Christmas. American architect David recently moved to London to work for his girlfriend's father's firm. He hires professional shopper Angie to help him find the perfect gift after being shamed for buying his girlfriend just a gift card. It's always amazing when the person in a Hallmark movie hires a professional shopper to buy a gift because they are always too busy to do it. They then join the shopper in purchasing the gift for days, eventually falling in love. It's not an interesting story, and his girlfriend has a right to be upset as the chemistry between the two is pretty obvious. On-location films typically only feature a few key scenes in the country that they're in. But A Jolly Good Christmas is unique as it is entirely filmed in London, and it's pretty obvious. The movie looks great and is wonderfully shot, but it's average and just not very jolly. Number 26. In Merry Measure. One-time pop star Darcy is having a hard time making waves in the music world after her big hit song Sugar Rush. Defeated that her tour is not selling well, she returns home to spend Christmas with her sister and niece and volunteers to help coach the high school choir of her high school rival, Adam. Patty Murin gets her first lead in a Hallmark film. While I enjoyed her performance, I came away not caring about this movie. The premise of two different choirs competing is quickly squashed, losing any of the interesting conflict that it might have had. It's not a bad movie, it's just an average Hallmark film that features Brendan Penny in glasses, and that is probably the most memorable thing about it. Number 25. A Big Fat Family Christmas. Liv works with her new co-worker Henry for a front-page story about the local Chang family's annual holiday party. What Henry and the rest of her co-workers are unaware of is that the Changs are her family. I did have a lot of excitement for this movie, and I came away liking it a lot more than I thought I would. The film features 3 different story tropes. The first is the reporter who needs to write a story by Christmas Eve. The second, planning the event trope where Liv and Henry actually help her parents plan the party, and a twist on the fake boyfriend trope where her parents pretend they don't know her. I was afraid that we were going to go through the entire film with her family pretending that they are not related to her. Surprisingly, her grandmother confirms to Henry in Mandarin, which Liv is unaware he speaks, that her last name is Chang. It's a great twist and helped redeem this movie. 24. The most colorful time of the year. Christopher Russell plays Ryan, an elementary school science teacher who's hiding a deeply disturbing secret. He is colorblind. Michelle, an optometrist played by Katrina Bowden, and the mother of one of his students, easily diagnoses the issue and helps let Ryan see the world in color for Christmas. I'm puzzled as to how a movie where an optometrist helps correct a man's color blindness was pitched and greenlit for production as a Christmas movie. It's a very unique and different storyline from the typical Hallmark movie that I came away actually enjoying. Katrina Bowden is a pushy eye doctor who may possibly commit an illegal act by signing Ryan up for an experimental glasses that cure his grayscale view of the world without his permission. I do have to admit that in the scene where Ryan puts on the glasses for the first time and sees the Hall of Christmas trees, I got a little emotional. It was a great scene that got ruined when instead of showing him the color of nature, Michelle takes him to a church to wrap presents. Number 23, A Cozy Christmas Inn. Jodie Sweetin plays Erica, a real estate executive that travels to Garland, Alaska during the holidays to purchase a bed and breakfast owned by her ex-boyfriend. She reconnects with him and discovers the secret that Garland holds and helps the town serve their first cappuccino. 8 years after Christmas Under Wraps, we get a revisit to the town of Garland, Alaska. And I was happy to see Jodie return to the Hallmark universe, but I was kind of disappointed that the story was another real estate developer needs to buy property before Christmas trope. Some of the original cast, including Brian Doyle Murray as Santa and Paige Petruka as diner owner Hattie, returned, but missing so many of the minor characters that I didn't have any feels for the first movie. Santa's son Andy Holiday is still single after Dr. Lauren Burnell dumped him, leaving the town to pursue a grant. Ironically, she was played by Jodie's Full House and former Hallmark star Candace Cameron Bure. I'm trying not to put my conspiracy tinfoil hat on, but did Hallmark greenlit this movie as a way to get back at Candace for leaving? Will the third movie feature an Olsen twin? That's Garland for you. Number 22, Twas the Night Before Christmas. Former actress Madison takes on writing and directing of a Christmas Eve courtroom production debating the true authorship of the poem A Visit from St. Nick. As rehearsals begin, the play gains 2 additional characters, the ghost of Clement Clark Moore and Henry Livingston Jr., as they defend who wrote the poem. The film is based on a play written by attorney Jack Casey and Duncan Crary of the play The Trial Before Christmas, as a framework for 2 mock trials staged in Troy, New York. One in 2013, which ended in a hung jury, and the other following a year in which a jury ruled that Livingston was the real author. I was unaware of the authorship debate for the poem, which took me down a Google rabbit hole. A Visit from St. Nicholas was first published in the newspaper The Troy Sentinel in 1823, but no author was credited at the time. The debate on who wrote the poem has supporters on both sides and now is a Hallmark Christmas movie. Twas the Night Before Christmas is the most unique Hallmark storyline this year. The performances are great, but if anything, the subject matter is far more interesting than a romance story. Number 21, A Tale of Two Christmases. Emma experiences how one decision can provide her with 2 different Christmases. She decides not to go home for Christmas. She will stay in town and celebrate with Max, a lawyer she has her eyes on. She returns home to her family. She will reconnect with Drew, her hometown friend. I really liked the premise of the film, but the execution wasn't quite right. Typically, one guy would be the obvious choice, but both Max and Drew were both good guys. The only decision Emma really needed to make was, does she want to continue to live in the city or return to her hometown? Where this film suffered is that neither option has anything interesting going on. When she is with Max, they plan a party and she misses home. When she's with Drew, she's happy to be home, but both stories take an agonizingly long time to wrap up. I really enjoy the movies that feature Santa Christmas magic, and the leads were good, so I'm ranking it higher than I probably should. Number 20, The Holiday Stocking. After recently dying, Robert finds he has still one last mission to accomplish, to help his estranged sisters reconcile. Allowed 12 days to complete his mission, Robert becomes an angel in disguise named RJ, and works to reunite his sisters, reminding them of the holiday family tradition. The Holiday Stocking has a lot going for it, but it has a questionable start. Knowing this is a Hallmark film, we know there's going to be a romance regardless of the main story. Robert is the older brother to his sisters, but he's disguised as a young, handsome guy that I was actually concerned would lead to an attraction from one of his sisters. An incestual relationship obviously didn't happen, but it did make me question that decision. And why couldn't McKelty Williamson, also known as Bubba from Forrest Gump, play Robert but not be recognized by his sisters? I got past that awkward decision, but found the ending disappointing. In the end, we get this great scene where RJ recreates the family living room. They take a photograph together that I thought for sure when the sisters look at the photo, they would see their brother. But that doesn't happen, and instead they see him in the door only to see young RJ again. It was kind of disappointing ending that could have easily ranked this movie higher. Number 19, Long Lost Christmas. Haley looks for and believes she finds her mother Patricia's long-lost brother. Using a business excuse to meet her uncle, she discovers a budding romance and extended family she didn't know existed. Congratulations! Taylor Cole is finally in a good Christmas film after last year's goofy Making Spirits Bright and the boring Unlocking Christmas in 2020. I've always liked her as an actress, but have not been a fan of any of her Christmas films. Long Lost Christmas has a lot of good things going for it, but it also gives us a lot of unneeded story tropes. A secondary story of her winning an opportunity to participate in an interior design competition is the reason she travels to search for her uncle. That story is completely forgotten about until the very end, and it's really not necessary. The story of how her mother lost touch with her brother is fairly believable, and the final reunion is touching to make this film actually work. Number 18, Christmas Class Reunion. High school classmates who once dubbed themselves the Cursed Class reunite for their 15-year high school reunion during the Christmas holiday. Ellie, played by Amy Teagarden, learns that everybody changes, including the guy she thought she was meant to be with, and Devin, who she didn't like when she was in high school. Christmas Class Reunion is another ensemble movie that really only focuses on two of the characters, Ellie and Devin, and unfortunately becomes another planning or saving the event storyline. It's unfortunate because this had the potential to ramp up the comedy and focus the story at the reunion only. But we get a number of secondary stories involving losing a job, finding a job, and separation. It's the typical Hallmark story and character tropes that feel forced into the story. My love of Amy Teagarden allowed me to enjoy this movie more than it deserves. She's wonderful as Ellie and has great chemistry with Tanner Nolan, who plays Devin. Number 17, The Gift of Peace. Tracy finds it difficult to discuss her grief in a support group after her husband's death. Losing her faith, Tracy searches for comfort and inspiration. She finds it with the support group leader Michael, played by Brennan Elliott, who also finds it difficult to share his grief over the loss of his wife. I'm not a fan of faith-based movies. I don't like being preached to, and that is what most Christian movies do, so I went into this movie being very skeptical. For a movie sponsored by Dayspring, I was pleasantly surprised that the film focused more on people talking about their grief without telling me what I'm doing wrong. My biggest complaint is that I am so tired of seeing Nikki DeLoach cry. Every morning has her mourning grandparents, dead husbands, and even facing a divorce. She cries in every single one of those movies. Give this woman a comedy, and please let her laugh. Number 16, #XMAS. When Jen, played by Claire Bowen, enters a brand design contest posing as a family influencer who is married with a child, the truth is that her fake husband is her best friend Max, played by Brant Daughtry, and the child is her sister's. When she does become a finalist in the contest, she must keep up the look of a perfect family, and decide if she can live with the lie. I have to admit that I know nothing, nor do I understand why or how people become influencers. I'm not in that world and I have no interest in learning how it works, so I went into this movie skeptical that I would even like it. I was wrong. I still don't care about influencers, but I really enjoy the cast of this movie. Claire Bowen was really fun and has great comedic moments, and her chemistry with Anna Van Hoot, who plays her sister Allie, was also a lot of fun as they plan her fake family. I'm still not sure this is how people become influencers, but the movie was a lot of fun and I enjoyed it. Number 15, We Wish You a Merry Christmas. Becca and Robbie follow a suggestion from their marriage counselor to check into a cozy inn into the small town of Gracious before the Christmas holiday. The hope is that they will reconnect and save their failing marriage. Maricel Nichols and Christopher Palaha are two wonderful actors, but I struggled to find any real chemistry between them. Part of that is the fact that they have to spend so much time in the movie feeling uncomfortable with each other that when they do get back together, the movie's over. I love the secondary characters of the inn owners, Cindy the tow truck driver, Kayla the annual portrait artist, and of course, the alpacas. The movie's preview got me excited at the humor, mostly because of Christopher Palaha, but I found it to be a very average Hallmark film after it was over. It's good to make a variety of stories that include saving the marriages before it's too late. The problem is that the film spends most of the time on the couple not getting along, and when they do reconnect, the movie's over. Number 14, Campfire Christmas. 5 camp friends reunite for one final holiday celebration at the summer camp they attended as teenagers. Old and new relationships build as they celebrate Christmas in July. We get 3 different romance stories. Peyton, played by Tori Anderson, and Thomas, by Cordon Bleu, renew their camp romance 15 years later. Beckett finally gets the camp romance he was afraid to pursue, and married couple Dave and Janice discover the next step in their relationship. I enjoyed all the actors' performances and how serious the actors were as adult campers. I loved the premise of a camp reunion, and while certain parts of the story were silly, it didn't bother me. I was surprised Peyton did not take over the camp. I expected that to happen, and the story took a different direction. Not all the relationships were as interesting when it comes to an ensemble, and Christmas Camp is no exception. Number 13, 5 More Minutes, Moments Like These. Caitlin, played by Ashley Williams, is trying to move on with her life and her 10-year-old son 4 years after losing her husband on Christmas Eve. She returns to her hometown to sell the family home and is reminded of what she lost and wishes for 5 more minutes with her deceased husband. We get another movie inspired by Scotty McCreery's song 5 More Minutes, using a Christmas wish to spend just 5 minutes with a lost loved one. Last year, Nikki DeLoach's film was great and a good alternative to the faith-driven movies, but I didn't think we were going to get another. I love Ashley Williams, and she shows her dramatic side while including a little bit of comedy. Both she and Nikki are the reasons why these movies work. Lucas Bryant is great as a new love interest, and ironically stars in the other series based on a country song in the film, Time for You to Come Home for Christmas. Overall, though, I enjoyed this movie and Nikki's 2021 film, but fear, as a series, it loses something if it continues to be a repeating story trope. Number 12, Our Italian Christmas Memories. Anna and her siblings care for their grandfather, who is struggling with dementia while their mother takes a much-needed vacation. Hoping to jog her grandfather's memory, Anna attempts to recreate their late grandmother's legendary pasta sauce, and a long-lost family tradition. Beau Bridges gives one of the best acting performances in a Hallmark film. In the scene where he gets confused about where the car was parked, Beau gave me a lot of sad, depressing feelings with his portrayal of the dementia-suffering grandfather, Vincent Colucci. Sarah Powers, who starred in one of the worst 2021 films, Nantucket Noel, shines in the same scene and shows the stress of how dementia not only affects the person suffering from it, but how it affects the family as well. Hallmark really needs to reevaluate how the trailers are edited and sell the movie. The trailer focused on a family recreating the lost pasta recipe, and I can easily say nothing sounds more boring. Our Italian Christmas Memories is not a perfect film. It could have avoided all the new romance and selling the tomato farm stories and focused on celebrating Christmas with their grandfather before he can't remember. Number 11, Christmas at the Golden Dragon. The Chen family shocks the entire community by announcing the closure of their beloved Chinese restaurant, the Golden Dragon. The Chen siblings, Romy and Rick, along with the loyal customers, work through life during the Christmas season and learn that family is not just who you are related to. In my opinion, Hallmark doesn't have a good track record with ensemble films. They are often bloated with storylines that don't get enough screen time or are unresolved. This film is the exception. All the character storylines connect with each other and lead back to the restaurant, and I found myself satisfied at the end. I love the humor of Romy trying to impress her future in-laws. You feel the sadness for Veronica attempting to enjoy the holiday, even though her in vitro fertilization didn't work. And the ending, where the Chen children serve their parents their final meal at the restaurant they ran for decades, was a beautiful way to end the film. Number 10, A Kismet Christmas. Sarah, played by Sarah Ramos, is a children's book author who wrote the new best-selling book, Isabella's Kismet Cookies. she reluctantly returns to her hometown where she is reminded of the famous Kismet cookie legend that revealed her true love, Travis, played by Carlos Marx. The opening flashback of A Kismet Christmas is spectacular and silly. Sarah and Carlos play teenage versions of themselves, playing out like a Saturday Night Live skit. Turns out that if you put a Kismet cookie, made from the recipe that Sarah's grandmother found in a secret compartment of her house, you will dream about your true love. Sarah dreams of Travis, but is heartbroken when he gets married on Christmas Day at his house. The legend of the cookie and the silly flashback gave me high hopes that the film was going to be a crazy comedy. Unfortunately, the film calms down and becomes a typical Hallmark romance film with Sarah and Travis reconnecting. It's still enjoyable, but if the entire film was as absurd as the opening flashback, it would have ranked higher. Number 9. Hanukkah on Rye. Unable to find love, Jacob and Molly are both set up as a hired matchmaker by their grandmothers while Jacob is visiting New York scouting a new location for the family deli. Molly becomes upset when she learns that Jacob wants to open the new restaurant near her own family's deli and confides to her secret match, unaware she is writing to Jacob. Ironically, the Hanukkah movies continue to be some of the best films in the countdown to Christmas celebration. Reminiscent of Love by Mail movies, The Shop Around the Corner, and You've Got Mail, Hanukkah on Rye attempts to retell the story in today's world with cell phones. From when they first meet, Jeremy Jordan and the Yael Grobglas have great chemistry. Along with the supporting cast, everyone embraced the over-the-top storyline and hysterical close-up food transitions. Throw in a musical performance from Lisa Loeb and you have another great Hanukkah rom-com film. Number 8. The Royal Nanny. Claire, played by Rachel Scarson, is an M15 agent assigned to work undercover as a royal nanny based on credible evidence that there is potential security breach at Kensington Palace. As the nanny, Claire must protect Princess Rose and Prince Edward's children and resist the charms of Prince Colin. I don't know why, but I really enjoy most of the Hallmark royal movies, and this one was unique and a lot of fun. The movie is a comedy and a mystery that ends in a kidnapping plot of Prince Colin and a rescue mission from the royal nanny who takes out the kidnappers with her trusty umbrella. My biggest complaint is that the movie played it safe and tried to bring some reality into a story that would have worked so much better if they had let it go absurd. The character of Mrs. Lansbury should have run an agency of nannies or Mary Poppins secret agents who not only care for the children, but also provide protection similar to the Kingsman films. Instead of using weapons, the nanny used their trusty umbrellas. Number 7. Lights, Camera, Christmas. The new Christmas film, starring Brad Baxter, also known as the King of Christmas, is filming in Carrie's small town where she runs a custom clothing boutique. The production hires her to step in as a film costume designer, where she rediscovers her love for the job and falls for the leading man. Kimberly Sustand is one of my favorite Hallmark actresses. Her characters are down-to-earth and vulnerable. Comparing her to John Brotherton's over-the-top comedy performance, I found myself not buying that these characters belong together. Yet I still enjoyed the film a lot. John's character Brad was pompous and pretentious, and I would have loved to see him as a secondary character of a different leading man. I love the idea of a movie taking place on a film set and was hoping to see more of Hallmark making fun of itself. We get a lot of that, but they don't take it far enough. I know it sounds like I am focusing on what's wrong with this film, but it is only because I want to see Hallmark go further with this concept. Hallmark attempted to make a movie that is very meta, but plays it safe with the typical romance film in the end. Even though I have complaints, Lights, Camera, Christmas is a lot of fun and is really one of the best films this year. Number 6. The Holiday Sitter. Jonathan Bennett plays Sam, who is tasked with watching his niece and nephew before the holidays. Unsure how to properly care for the kids, he hires help from the neighbor Jason, only to discover an unexpected romance. The Holiday Sitter is funny. It's not slapstick, but goofy at times with a lot of heart. Jonathan got to show gay representation, and he feels right at home with this part. The chemistry with him and George Crissa, who plays the neighbor and love interest, shines when they hold hands as you feel the attraction between them. Jonathan also is amazing with kids, especially his niece Dania, played by Melia Morgan. I love the scene where she doesn't recognize her uncle without his unfortunate mustache. If you didn't catch it, we also get a Mean Girls reference.
Stop trying to make fetch happen.
Jonathan Bennett has been part of the Hallmark universe for almost 10 years, playing the male leads in numerous love stories involving a man and a woman. The Christmas House films allowed him to play a gay character, but they were part of an ensemble. The Holiday Sitter is the first Hallmark film to feature a gay relationship. Guess what? The film still feels like a Hallmark film, filled with love, happiness, and of course, predictability. Number 5. Noel Next Door. Noel, a single mother dealing with custody issues, falls for Jeremy, a man who suffered a stroke a year ago, paralyzing his left arm. Little does she know that Jeremy is the cranky neighbor her son calls Scrooge. Noel Next Door surprised me with how much I enjoyed the dialogue, referencing real things that happen to people. Women eating tampons, bitter argument with exes, and bad blind dates with smelly, pretentious flat earthers not only make this movie fun, but make you feel Noel and Jeremy are normal human beings. The standout performance is Natalie Hall, who looks past Corey's disability and likes him for who he is. The scene at the diner where she helps him take off his jacket is one of my favorite scenes. She and Corey Siver have great chemistry, and you can see him come to life when he's with her. I felt the struggle Corey's character had with his disability, but I'm not sure I bought him as a Scrooge, especially because that kid was a monster. Number 4. 3 Wise Men and a Baby. Luke, a firefighter, discovers someone has left a baby named Thomas at the firehouse, asking him to care for the child until she returns. He enlists the help of his brothers Stephen and Taylor, who work together to care for the baby throughout the holidays. When Hallmark announced Andrew Walker, Tyler Hynes, and Paul Campbell would star together in a film, it's no surprise that 3 Wise Men and a Baby was the most anticipated film to the countdown to Christmas. Mimicking the 80s film 3 Men and a Baby, Margaret Collin, who was in the original 80s film, plays the Wise Men's mother. The film was written by Paul Campbell and Hallmark star Kimberly Sustan and was the most watched TV movie on cable in 2022. Andrew Walker, Tyler Hynes, and Paul Campbell clearly had fun with this film, embracing the comedy. My only issues with the film are the relationships are not necessary. Not every film has to end with a new relationship, especially when the chemistry between the 3 brothers is so good. My biggest complaint, though, is why they chose to have the mother drop off the baby with a person she doesn't know. It framed her as a terrible mother, and asked questions as to why the fire department did not call Child Protective Services. Before we wrap up the top 3, I want to take a moment to ask you to subscribe to this channel, especially if you like what you see.
Coming, Mom!
Number 3, A Holiday Spectacular. Maggie tells her granddaughter the story of how her secret dream came true, dancing for the Rockettes. Set in 1958, Maggie sneaks away to New York City, putting her high society wedding plans on hold to try out for the Rockettes. Passing her audition, she dances on the stage in the Christmas Spectacular at Radio City Music Hall. A Holiday Spectacular is a different storyline than the usual plots that we get. The setting is in the late 50s and focuses on some really good friend relationships. You still get the typical new romance between Maggie, played by Jenna Claire Mason, and naval photographer John, played by Derek Klena. The romance was sweet, but the relationship between the Rockettes was far more interesting. Hallmark puts the money behind this film. It looks and feels like a theatrical release. Anne Margaret plays the older Maggie, and while it is a small role, she gives the movie some credibility. Recreating the look and feel of New York in the late 50s is not cheap, and the movie is beautifully shot, and even the effects look great. Number 2, Haul Out the Holly. Lacey Chabert plays Emily, who after breaking up with her live-in boyfriend, that's right, I said live-in boyfriend, comes home for Christmas. Upon her arrival, she discovers that her parents quickly leave for Florida, leaving her home alone. Emily must keep up with the required neighborhood Christmas requirements or be fined by the Homeowners Association. In a year full of movies of grief and sadness, Haul Out the Holly gives us some much-needed laughter and the funniest movie Hallmark has ever made. It's a satire, and at times very over the top with the typical Hallmark tropes. It's clear that the cast had a lot of fun with this film. Wes Brown puts on a pair of glasses and overplays the goofy HOA inspector. Melissa Peterman plays the Karen of the neighborhood, annoyed with everything Lacey character does. Then you have Groundhog Day's Stephen Tobolowsky, who again plays a character named Ned and has some of the best one-liners in the film. Finally, Lacey gets to show her comedic side, something she rarely gets to do in her Hallmark movies, and it was refreshing to see something different from her. And the number 1 2022 Hallmark movie is Ghost of Christmas Always. Catherine, the ghost of Christmas present, along with the ghosts of past and future, spend each Christmas Scrooging a person who needs to discover the true meaning of Christmas. This year, something is wrong. The man that they are sent to Scrooge, Peter Barron, is not a horrible person. He's kind and filled with the Christmas spirit. Catherine attempts to discover why Peter was chosen, only to discover more about her life and her Christmas future. Ghost of Christmas Past is a unique twist on the Scrooge story and is an adventurous direction for the Hallmark Channel not only in story but in writing as well. The dialogue stands out as genuinely funny and witty discussions on the history of Christmas Carol story and does a fantastic job with the emotional and sincere moments when we learn about Catherine's mortal life. The cast is brand new to Hallmark Universe. Kim Atula and Ian Harding had great chemistry as Catherine and Peter. While I wish this film wasn't a romance story, the two leads worked well together and the relationship was well done. Lori Tan Chin plays Arlene, the cynical no-nonsense ghost of Christmas past, with Reginald Vale Johnson's ghost of Christmas future. Yes, that's right, Family Matters' Carl Winslow and Die Hard's Sergeant Al Powell makes his Hallmark debut, but he is sadly underused. Hallmark hit it out of the park with this one, and I applaud the bold new story direction, making Ghost of Christmas Always easily the best film of the year. So that is my ranking of the 2022 Hallmark Christmas films. Do you agree with me, or do you think I've made the wrong choices? I know you'll let me know in the comments below. This has been a really great year for Christmas movies in recent years, and I found that I enjoyed most of the films. I'm excited to see what comes for 2023. I'm the Christmas Aficionado, and remember, stay off the naughty list. And please consider subscribing.